Welcome students. Today we are going to see the course Java programming. In that the first unit comprises introduction to Java, and the topic we are going to see is fundamentals of object oriented programming. Myself Dr. C. Rani, assistant professor from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering from Government College of Engineering, Salem. Let's see the objectives and outcomes of the session. So session objective is to know the fundamentals of object-oriented programming, and the outcome of the session is that the students may be able to understand the object-oriented programming concepts. Let's see the object-oriented programming concepts. So in this, we are going to see what is meant by programming paradigm. It's a framework that defines how the user is going to interpret or understand the complex problems and arrive at some solution. For example, the problem given to the user is to write a program on calculator, scientific calculator. The user A will be arriving the solution for the given problem in his or her own way. User B will be arriving the same solution in a different manner. So it differs from different users or different paradigms. So this paradigm led to the way for writing the programming language. So we are going to see the comparison between the paradigm and the programming language. So programming paradigm is an approach to which the programming a computer based on a mathematical theory or a coherent set of principles. Programming language is nothing but a tool for developing the models for certain problems. So in general, we can say that programming paradigm influences the language design. Why do we need object-oriented programming? So there are some limitations in the earlier approaches to programming. So we are moving to object-oriented programming. So in the earlier approach, we have followed procedure-oriented programming. We'll see that. So initially we are having two different kinds of programming approaches. One is top-down approach. The other one is bottom-up approach. So what is meant by top-down approach? Let's move on to the previous slide. So this is the top-down approach. So consider this is a single program is subdivided into so many number of sub problems or subdivisions. This is called top-down approach. That is breaking up of the single or bigger problem into smaller components. That is called top-down approach. Whereas bottom-up approach will start with the smaller components and combine together to form a bigger one. That is bottom-up approach. Okay, top-down is a process of breaking the overall procedure or a task into the component parts. And this component is further subdivided into the lowest level of detail until it reaches the lowest level. For example, if you are having a payroll system of a company, it is having some certain modules, that is master file, earnings, deductions, taxing, net earning, printing the reports. So a single problem, that is payroll system, is divided into so many number of tasks or the modules. The similar thing, the example for top-down approaches, C programming, Pascal and Fortran. Let's see the characteristics of procedure-oriented programming. So mainly it is focusing on the algorithms. So large programs are divided into smaller programs known as functions. So most of the functions will be sharing the global data. So data will be moving around the system from function to function. So the functions transform the data from one form to another form. So this is called procedure-oriented programming, which employs or which uses the top-down approach in the program design. So division into functions. That is, the main program will be divided into so many number of functions depending on the requirements of the users. So the idea of breaking the program into functions further extended by grouping the number of functions together into a single entity called module. This is the structure of the procedure-oriented program. Here is the main programming that is subdivided into so many number of 8 functions or picturized here. And this is the procedural paradigm, that is the approach in which multiple function program will be sharing the global data, okay, and each function will be having its own local data. The local data scope is only within its function, and the scope of the global data is throughout the function. Okay. What are the drawbacks of procedure-oriented programming is that since every function has complete access to the global variables, when the new programmer can corrupt the data accidentally by creating the function. It can access the data of one function from the another function, so there is no protection in the data. So there is no security in data. In large program, it is very difficult to identify what data is used by which function. So there will be a confusion of using the data. Similarly, if new data is to be added, then all the functions need to be modified to access the particular data. So it does not model the real world problem very well. So these are some of the drawbacks of procedure oriented program. Next we'll see the next approach, that is bottom up approach, that is the process starts with the elementary objects and then combining together to get the desired result. So example for bottom up approaches: C++ language, Java language, C#, Python, Smalltalk, PHP. So it is nothing but the bottom up approach is the reverse process of the top down approach. So lower level tasks are first carried out and are then integrated. The lower level tasks are integrated to provide the solution for the single program. It promotes the reusability of the code and it also allows the unit testing also. So lower level structures of the program are evolved first and then it's creating the higher level structures also. So then there comes the need for object-oriented programming. It was introduced to overcome the drawbacks in the procedural approach to programming, such as reusability, lack of reusability, and the lack of maintainability. The fundamental idea behind the object-oriented programming languages is to combine into a single unit. That is, data and function will be combined to form a single unit. Okay, such a unit is called object. In object-oriented programming, the problem is divided into a number of entities called objects that builds data and functions around these objects. So the objects can communicate with one another through the functions. This is the pictorial representation of object-oriented paradigm. Here 3 objects are there. So each object can share the data or pass the messages through the functions. What are the characteristics of object-oriented programming? So mainly it focuses on the data and not on the procedure. So in this, the programs are divided into entities known as objects. The data structures are designed such that they categorize the object. In OOPs, the functions that operate on data of an object are tied together in data structures. Here the data is hidden and cannot be accessed by the external function, so data is protected here. So security is provided here. So the objects can communicate with each other through the functions. New data and functions can be easily added whenever required, whenever there is a need. And object-oriented programming follows the bottom-up design in program design. What is meant by OOPS? A programming paradigm that is focused on objects and data. And these are designed, objects are designed to interact with each other. Objects are identified to model a system. So these are the basic concepts of object-oriented programming system. That is, first concept is objects, classes. Third one is data abstraction. Fourth one is data encapsulation. Fifth one is inheritance. And sixth one is polymorphism. Seventh one, dynamic binding. And eighth one is message passing. Let's see the objects. So objects may represent any person, place or any item that the program handles. Okay, objects are the basic runtime entities in an object-oriented system. So an object is an entity and it holds state, behavior and identity. Okay, and every object is associated with data and functions which define meaningful operations on that data. So object is considered as a real world existing entity. Object is an instance of a particular class. So see this, the pictorial representation of an object in which consists of so many number of operations. There is functions and attributes. So the combination of functions and attributes, otherwise called as data members. So the combined form of attributes or data members and functions, they are objects. Okay, see this example. An object is nothing but the collection of data members and functions. Example, a car. The data members for a car, it can be a model of a car, year of manufacturing, then color of a car. So all these are considered as data members, and the functions are starting a car, moving a car, stopping a car. So this is the pictorial representation of an object. What is meant by object? That is, when a program is executed, the object can interact with the another object by sending the messages. For example, if you're having two objects in a program, for example, customer object and account object, then the customer object may send a message to the account object requesting for the bank balance. So each object contains data and code to process that particular data. For example, consider this, the mouse is an object, and in this we can go on seeing the behavior. Each mouse is depicted as object, and each object is doing some tasks: left click, scrolling, right click. So these are some of the functions which are operated on the mouse. Classes. The next concept is classes. Classes are the user-defined data types, and it behaves like a built-in type of a programming language. So object contains code and the data which can be made user-defined type using the class. So classes are user-defined data type. Objects are the variables of the classes. Once a class has been defined, we can go on creating the so many number of objects for the particular class. So in simpler manner, we can define the class as a collection of objects of similar type. Okay. The same thing is depicted here. So you can go for creating the object using the following syntax: class name followed by the object name. So for example, you can have the class name as a student and the object name Ram and Sham. So here Ram and Sham are the two objects created for the class student. Another example: banana, apple, pineapple, strawberry. All these are characterized as a one class under the one class fruit. So each fruit will be having some special features and functionalities and benefits also. Data abstraction. It's defined as only showing the interested features and hiding the unnecessary details. That is called as data abstraction. It becomes the abstract data type, that is ADT or user defined type. Thank you.